everybody, welcome. Tonight's class is Potluck, Appetizers, and Side Dishes. And tonight is hosted by Stilly Valley Health Connections, sponsored by Skagit Regional Health. So thank you to them. And yeah, we're gonna have a really fun class. It's gonna be packed, but we'll get through the recipes. So the sides I chose were a cantaloupe salsa, buffalo cauliflower wings, a warm chipotle lime sweet potato salad, and hopefully we can get to the homemade ranch dressing. We prepped a lot ahead of time. So I'm going to start with the salsa so we can have it chill during the class while we're doing the other things, because the chilling helps bring out the flavors. So I've already, and by me, my brother came and helped because traffic was horrible. We've already chopped up a lot of the cantaloupe, but just if no one's ever worked with a cantaloupe, this is like what it looks like when you cut it open and you want to take out these seeds. And I'm just going to put them right into the garbage. But this is a salsa that I wanted to show people because I feel like chips and salsa is pretty popular to bring to a function or if you're hosting something. So this just kind of gives it a different spin on salsa. No one expects to have melon in it. So the flavor is quite different. I've had it before and then I brought it to a few functions and it always ends up being very popular. Also, melon is in season right now. So you're gonna get really tasty melons, especially the cantaloupe and the watermelon and the honeydew, and for a more reasonable price. So that's why we're doing this recipe, just to kind of show a little something different that you can do with cantaloupe. I think we all think of it as a staple in fruit salad. Yes, thank you for reminding me. That was in my bank of things to talk about. So when you're picking a cantaloupe, you want to check the outside, the skin part, that there's like no bruises or soft spots. And then when you're rubbing your hand on it, the skin beneath your thumb should kind of give a little bit. Like those veins should kind of slightly feel like they can move underneath your thumb, but not like squish in, because then it's probably overly ripe. And then I always take a smell, and I should smell cantaloupe. If you can't smell cantaloupe, it's probably not ripe enough, or it might be out of season and it's just not going to be a super flavorful one. But yeah, and then weight, check for it, like compare it to some of the other cantaloupes that are there. And the heavier it is, the more filled with water it's going to be. So it's going to be a juicier cantaloupe versus like a lighter one. So to recap, weight, the smell test, and then the feel test to check if it has just a little bit of give underneath. And this one had a really good smell, no soft spots. It probably could have used another day or two on the counter, but I smell it. It's going to be a good one.
And just ripening in room temperature.
Yes, keeping it on the counter, and then after you cut it, you want to put it in the fridge. Yeah, especially cut fruit. Melons are known for foodborne illnesses. It gets people a lot if it's left out at room temperature for too long. So I would say, chill it in the fridge, and then when you're serving it, with like a lot of potluck dishes, you don't want it to be out at room temperature longer than 2 hours. So this is I'm just chopping up a little bit more because I wanted to show you guys, but it called for about 4 cups. So that's what we're kind of doing. I'm just doing like a rough chop. You could go as fine as you wanted to, but knowing that the smaller pieces you go, the more liquidy your salsa is gonna get. So I would go with fairly chunky on the cantaloupe pieces. And I'm sorry, I was gonna use a clear bowl for this, but it wasn't big enough and I didn't want to be, when I'm trying to stir it, spilling everywhere. Okay, so what's so simple about this is really you're just cutting everything up, combining it, mixing it, throwing it in the fridge. So that's what we're gonna do. I got out my 2 cans of diced tomatoes. When you're looking for your diced tomatoes, make sure you're looking for the words no salt added, so then you can control how much salt is going in your dish versus when you buy canned goods, there's a lot in there to preserve the item and flavor it. So I always recommend choosing the no salt added, so you can be the control of that. A half of a red onion. So this was 1 full red onion. We're using it for another dish as well. So we're just gonna take half of this and throw it in there. Again, you can play around with how fine you want to chop up the onion. I probably would have gone a little bit finer with this just because I find onion to be very overpowering, but some people love it. So, you know, test your audience. 1 yellow bell pepper. So again, we pre-chopped this so we could get it going. You could do any color you want. I think it's just kind of, if you did orange, you already got orange with the cantaloupe. So we're kind of going with the visual part of it. If you did red, you have the red of the tomatoes. You could do green, but knowing green of your bell peppers is going to be the most bitter, where your yellow oranges are going to be more sweet and red. I only did 2 jalapenos because I was worried about people's spice tolerance. It does call for 4. Again, play around with it, see what you like. But tonight I opted to do 2 because I didn't want to send anybody home with burning ears. I did remove the white part and the seeds, which tends to be your spiciest part of a spicy pepper. And then we need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. You could buy, you know, your lemon juice pre-squeezed. I always have a bottle of lemon juice in my fridge just to keep life simple. But it's nice to have it fresh too. So that's why, and probably more cost efficient to juice your own lemons. But I'm gonna eyeball it. You could measure out the 2 tablespoons. This is a pretty juicy lemon, so we'll probably do half of it. And I always like to give it a little extra shape. The lemon juice just kind of helps bring all the flavors together, remove some of that spiciness, bitterness from the peppers, just kind of sweetens it up. And then it provides a liquid just to kind of help everything, the flavor start coming out because of that acid that's in the lemon. It starts breaking down the other fruits and vegetables that are in here and bringing out their flavors. But you could also play around with how much lemon juice you use after, like, it chills and you're like, oh, I think I want a little bit more. You can squeeze in a little bit more. And then we got lime juice as well. If you had most of the ingredients at home, but you're missing a lemon or lime, don't run to the store to get the other one. Just use all the lemons or all the limes that you have if that's like the only ingredient you're missing. This, again, just kind of makes the flavor a little different when you're using both of the acids. And that was about 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to use a whole lime because they're smaller than the lemons. Does anyone make salsa that's not your traditional type of salsa? You ever branch out with other fruits or veggies in it? I mean, that could be really fun. Yeah, chopping them in half. I don't see why not. Yeah. And that would be a nice salty or spicy sweet combination with jalapenos. I was gonna look for a garlic mincer, but I don't see it. So I'm just gonna finely chop this garlic clove. The garlic is giving it a little bit more depth and taking, again, away from some of the sweetness of the peppers and the cantaloupe. You might not think like, ooh, garlic and cantaloupe, does that really go together? But again, we're making a salsa that we want kind of a salty, savory, and that's the garlic is helping provide that savory aspect. And then not to mention garlic has a ton of health benefits. Sorry, I don't want to like cut my fingers, but really good for the immune system. Great on your breath. But yeah, you'll see like garlic supplements out there, and it's mainly for immune system. I say just cook with garlic. You don't have to go buy the supplements. But there's been studies done, and it's good for like heart health as well. And then we're gonna wait to add the olive oil at the end. So we'll stir this all up. Did you do the cilantro? Oh, did I skip over the cilantro? Thank you. I thought I was missing something. Okay, a half a cup. So this was a full bunch. I'm just gonna pull it out in half. We pre-washed everything. With cilantro, the stems are really, really small, so don't take the time to try to pull the leaves off. Just chop it up, throw it in there. Maybe the bottom of the stems, like I'm not gonna throw these in. You could if you wanted to, but I'm gonna keep it simple here. Again, I'm just finely chopping this up to mix in. I would recommend having it smaller because you don't want to get just a giant bite of cilantro when you do it. If you are one of those people where cilantro tastes like soap in your mouth, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of that? Some people, it's a genetic thing that happens to some people. They're predisposed and they don't like cilantro because it tastes like soap. If that's you, I think basil would be really good in this. It's just that's not traditional herb that you would find in salsa, but again, we're throwing cantaloupe in here, so this isn't your traditional salsa. But I feel like basil and cantaloupe really pair very nicely.
Is there a specific type of person, like Swedish people or no, redheads apparently have sensitivity to cold and heat more than?
Okay, so the question for the people online, is there people that would maybe be more predisposed to having that genetic where the gene where the taste tastes like the cilantro tastes like soap? I haven't heard of that, but now I kind of want to go look it up. If any of our online people are behind the computer and want to do a Google search and let us know.
My husband is a redhead, is his sister, and yeah, apparently they even have a tolerance. Well, they, and painkillers don't work as well for them.
Painkillers don't work as well for redheads. Interesting.
Right, it has to do with, it's such a rarity, that condition, and it has to do with the color of the hair and all the other.
Okay, I mean, I haven't dived into my genealogy of hair color and the different things, but I mean, there's studies out there. The soap one, I don't know, I learned in school. I had no idea it was a thing either. Okay, so now I'm just like mixing to make sure we spread all of these flavors very evenly. But look how colorful that is. It's super inviting to eat. Nutritionally, cantaloupe provides a lot of vitamin C, and the orange and yellow fruits and vegetables are full of beta carotene, which is really good for eye health. So we have orange, yellow, and red in here. So there's a lot of beta carotene in this salsa. There's the fiber with just all the fruits and veggies that's going on in here. Onions, again, tout a lot of antioxidant benefits. So it's just it's a nice, fresh, light side dish that we think of salsa that we just have to like dip chips in and stuff, but you could bring this to like, if it's a taco party, like throw on top of tacos, maybe put it on a dollop of it on top of salad. If you're making pulled pork or some kind of fish or something, you could throw this on top of it after you cooked it. So it has a many uses. And I like having foods like that we can have in our arsenal for when we're invited somewhere that can be multi-purposed. Okay, so now that's chilling. I'm gonna clean some of this up so it's out of our way. And then we're gonna move on to getting our cauliflower wings started. Has anyone ever tried making wings in quotation marks out of cauliflower before? It's become pretty popular. I mean, I feel like cauliflower has been used for cauliflower rice, and people are finding all kinds of different uses for it just because I mean, it has a lot of nutritional benefits to it, and it's lower in like the calories and carbohydrates that people are concerned about with other, I don't know, fun foods like wings. But not to say that you can't have those. Those are perfectly okay too. But this is just kind of a way to use a vegetable in a different way. So that's why I decided to do this recipe. So we have one large head of cauliflower. Again, pre-washed, I pre-chopped it up You could totally buy the bagged cauliflower if you're trying to save time here. It's just for cost purposes. It's usually less expensive to buy the whole head and then do the washing and chopping yourself. We have the oven preheating to 450 degrees. I'm gonna just take some paper towels and make sure these are dry. They've been sitting here. But this step is important because it's, we don't want it to get soggy, right? Like if we're thinking wings, we're thinking kind of like a crunchy chicken wing. So we don't want the sogginess of the water from the cauliflower to make the breading kind of mushy. So, but this is actually pretty dry. So it's been airing out here for a while. Okay. And then we're gonna use a large bowl and we're gonna make our breading. Get this out of the way. So we're gonna do our 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. If you're gluten-free, a 1-to-1 ratio flour would work really well here. I also saw recipes just using straight up almond flour. So again, there's some flexibility here. We're gonna do a 1/2 cup of water. Remember with your liquids, trying to use this type of the measuring cup, and then our dries, we're using more of the cylinder ones because it does measure out just a little differently. Okay, so 1/2 cup of water. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. So tonight's recipes, there are a lot of different spices and herbs, and it could seem like, wow, this is too much, but once you kind of stock your pantry with it, it lasts a while. Or like this was kind of from a bulk section, and it's a smaller amount because I personally don't use a lot of garlic powder in cooking, so I don't keep like a big thing of it at home, and that's just for digestive reasons. That's a whole other class, but not that it's very, very good for you and delicious. But if that's you, if you know it's a spice or an herb that you don't use a lot, I encourage going to bulk sections at like Winco or Fred Meyer and then just pre-measuring out a couple tablespoons of that. So then you don't have it sitting in like your cupboard for 1.5 years or something like that. And it can be a lot more cost effective because sometimes buying something like this size can be $8, $9 for depending on what herb you're buying. So buying it in bulk will be a lot more budget friendly. Okay, so we did the garlic and then we need our paprika. I'm just gonna, again, if you don't measure it perfectly, it's okay. I always say in my cooking classes, this is cooking, not baking. So we don't have to be super precise. We're not gonna mess it up like you would if you didn't follow like a cookie recipe to the T. Now we're gonna do some black pepper. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of salt because I know we're all watching our sodium intake, although when we're making things from scratch in Whole Foods, I don't think you have to be too shy with the salt shaker. It's when we're making stuff from a lot of pre-made like boxes and canned foods where we're not avoiding like the no salt added cans. That's where we run into trouble where we're getting way too much, but a little sprinkles of salt here and there, it's okay. All right, and then let me get a spoon. I'm just gonna mix this all up. This again is our breading. So it's gonna be kind of pasty. Has anyone breaded actual chicken wings, or I'm trying to think what else you would bread? Fish, yeah. So you know, it's kind of like a thicker paste. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put gloves on because this can get very messy. If you don't have gloves at home, maybe wet your hands beforehand. But we're just going to take our whole head of cauliflower, throw it in the bowl, and we're just going to coat each piece as evenly as possible. So cauliflower, does anybody know the family that the vegetable it belongs into? Cruciferous, yes. So broccoli, yep. Brussels sprouts, all the ones that make you gassy, but tout a lot of they're nutritional powerhouses. I think cauliflower gets a bad rap because of the color and people don't think it has very much nutrients, but I'm here to say that it provides a lot, especially for our different detox pathways. So we think of detox, a lot of people, maybe liver comes to mind as a first thing, and it is like our main detox organ in our body. And there's certain compounds within the cauliflower that helps the liver be like more active and to help detox the body of different toxins. It also is very high in fiber, which activates our digestive tract, and our digestion is another pathway for detoxification. So cauliflower is pretty cool, and it has a lot of nutrition, and maybe like steamed cauliflower isn't that fun, doesn't taste very good to a lot of people. Here's a way to maybe get people to eat more cauliflower. Pizza, yeah, if you're gluten-free, people will use it as like a pizza crust. Yep. Okay, so I pre-lined my baking sheet with parchment paper, and we're just gonna spread this out evenly and with some space around it. You don't wanna overcrowd your cookie sheet. I'll bring it over here so our guests online can see. And then we're gonna stick it in the oven. And then while this is doing its first round of baking, we'll start making our salad. But does anyone have any fun recipes or any questions about cauliflower or other ways you use it?
One thing that I've always been is the term buffalo used so many different adjectives for food. I don't really understand what it is. Is it a spice? Is it
the buffalo sauce? Why it's named buffalo? It's a very good question, and I have to imagine it has to do with like the paprika, cumin. Here, let's read the buffalo sauce.
And that's a when you add that.
What's that? We add this later. I haven't added it yet, but we had a question about where the term buffalo comes from. So this is the buffalo sauce. So it has vinegar, cayenne red pepper. So I have a feeling it has to do with that. Canola oil and paprika, and then garlic powder. So
I'm not sure if this is accurate.
Okay.
Buffalo wings, I believe, became popular in Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo wings became popular in Buffalo, New York. Okay, so maybe that's why we have the name. Again, another thing, it's like a trivia question I need to research.
We were asking about any other recipes for cauliflower.
Yes.
Cauliflower potato.
Ooh, cauliflower potato salad. That sounds delicious. Do you steam the cauliflower beforehand? Yeah. Okay. I like that.
I've done that. Some people at first they didn't know that they eating cauliflower. They were.
Okay, so I'm repeating stuff that you guys say because we have people online watching. Okay, so you said you steam the cauliflower beforehand and then use all your other normal ingredients for a potato salad and mix it together, and people won't notice that it's even cauliflower. All right, I'm going to try that this summer. Potato salad's a great side dish. Mashed potatoes, mashed cauliflower instead. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's, so we got the cauliflower in there. We need to bake for 25 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer for 15 minutes so I remember to kind of toss it around. So that's why I'm getting on the phone here because I don't know how to do the oven one. And then we'll have that timer going. Okay, so we're gonna set this recipe card aside and we're gonna get your warm chipotle lime sweet potato salad. You guys, this is my like go-to salad. When I'm invited over someone, they say bring a salad, or I'm hosting people and if it goes well with other dishes that I'm gonna make, I will make a salad because I've never had it like have a zero leftovers of it when I want leftovers of it, but it gets gobbled down. And it's very simple to make. So we're gonna add our tablespoon of olive oil. I kind of do this like out of my head, so I'm gonna try to follow the recipe a little bit more, so I'm not confusing people. So I'm gonna turn on my burner. I have a very large skillet here. Ideally, we'd have one maybe a little bit deeper, but we're gonna, since this one's so wide, we're gonna make it work. But I'm gonna let this kind of come to heat before I throw my oil in there. And I'm at between 4 and 5 on this burner. Just wanna make sure I turn on the right one. Yeah, okay. And then while that's heating up, I'm gonna quickly chop up my pre-washed kale. You could use spinach. I think the kale holds up a little bit better. Spinach tends to kind of clump together when you saute it down. But again, if you're in a pinch, you can use it. This kale, I did go grocery shopping this morning and the kale was a little sad looking at the store, but that's okay because we're cooking it up. So this is an example of like, I have this vegetable in my fridge. It doesn't look good to eat raw, cook it. So you're not throwing it away, you're not throwing away money. And it's still gonna taste great. There's nothing wrong with it. It just got a little sad. Probably, so I'm here to say it will taste just as good. I'm leaving these thicker stalks out just because kale is super fibrous. And these thicker pieces of the kale tend to just, you constantly chew on them. So I won't add that in there. If you have a dog, some dogs like the kale stems. Mine will sit at my feet and ask for them. And then just rough chopping this. So it will shrink down a little bit, but if you go too small, then it might be texture wise, you kind of want to leave it bigger and so we don't make it too small of bites. And then let's check my pan. Let's bring this up a little bit. So I like to warm the pan first before adding the olive oil. It's something I was taught in school. I can't remember the exact mechanism why. I think it's the way that the olive oil comes to heat. You don't want it like sitting in there for too long, but so that's why I keep checking my pan if it's warm. So we'll give that a few more seconds. And then while we're doing that, I'm gonna chop up my pre-cooked bacon. I know it's probably weird to have bacon in a healthy cooking class, but again, the amount that you would eat in 3 or 4 pieces of bacon, if you're dividing this up into 6 or 8 servings, it's really not that much and it adds so much flavor. You could do turkey bacon. You could do like ham and have that diced up. You could just omit it altogether. You could buy just the bacon bits if you wanted to. But I don't know, I think we need to ease up just a little bit on some of the food rules and not demonize foods as being bad. And I'm not saying go out and eat a whole bunch of bacon, but I think a little bit is okay. And when I was prepping it and people walked in tonight, they're like, oh, that smell. So it also makes your house smell really good before you have guests come over. And, you know, I just bought this in the deli section at Fred Meyer and I overcooked, so I'm removing some of the pieces. So then that way I wasn't buying a whole package of bacon and then wanting to eat the rest because the recipe only called for 3 to 4 slices. So that's also a trick you can do because I literally was just like, can I have 4 strips of bacon, please? I also removed the super fatty pieces and just leave the parts that let crisp up nice. So that's why I think it called for 3 slices. That's why I bought 4, knowing I would be removing some of the fat. So these are our bacon bits, and I'm just gonna chop them up a little bit more so it spreads out and gives that flavor. All right, so now I think our pan is ready for some olive oil. Again, it calls for 1 tablespoon. I'm just gonna coat my pan. Not measure out perfectly. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna add in our sweet potatoes, which are already pre-diced.
Are they raw?
They are raw, but when you have them small like this, the small cubes, they'll cook within 10 to 15 minutes. And if you don't overcrowd your pan, that's why you want to do this in like a nice large skillet. And this, I just have a little bit left, so that's not too bad. And we're just gonna let this come up to heat. I might have over prepped the veggies because I was worried there were so many. We might.
The recipe doesn't say that. Are those peeled?
They're not peeled. No, I leave the skins on just for the extra fiber. You could definitely peel them and then they'll cook even faster. Yeah. I think that it's a personal preference thing, and just was just trying to reserve some of the nutritional value too. So sweet potatoes, again, it's an orange vegetable, so it's full of that beta carotene. There's fiber, there's a little bit of protein, but one of my go-to starches in my house. I really enjoy them, super versatile. So we'll let that come up. It's kind of coming up slower than I wanted it to. That's okay. All right. And then once these kind of get going, yeah, I'm hearing the sizzle come now. We're gonna let it cook for a little bit, and then we will add more of our ingredients. So we can put a little salt and pepper in now. Like I said, I do this out of my head and not follow the recipe exactly. So I'm trying to follow it more closely for you guys. Okay, so yeah, let's let this kind of come to heat. We have 7 minutes before we're gonna toss our cauliflower. So this would be a good time to make our ranch dressing. And the ranch dressing is for dipping sauce for our wings. And the reason I wanted to make a dressing versus buying one is just to show like it is pretty simple to do. And then again, you can control everything that goes in there, where a lot of dressings on the market, there's some questionable ingredients sometimes. You always got to read those labels. And this will hold in your fridge for at least a week. So this is one dressing you could make, vinaigrette style dressings. All you need is an oil and a vinegar or an acid of some sort. And like right there, that's a dressing. And then anything else you add to it changes the flavor profile. Does anybody make their own dressings at home, or have ever tried making one?
Yeah, balsamic vinegar.
Balsamic vinegar and some oil. Yeah, super simple. Okay, we're gonna add the lemon juice to the milk and let this stand. This is kind of creating some chemistry that's occurring, and it's gonna help break down the milk to make it. This is your buttermilk. This is how you're making buttermilk, is by adding the acid to your milk instead of buying buttermilk. So this makes it like a lower fat, lower calorie way of making, instead of buying the buttermilk. And we need a half a cup. I'm just going to stick this in the fridge. Then we're going to add our lemon juice, 1 tablespoon. This I will measure it just because we are going for a little reaction here, and I don't want to overdo it or underdo it.
You ever seen those little teeny tiny measuring cups that can measure tablespoons?
No, teeny tiny measuring cups that can measure tablespoons. Oh, yes, I have seen those, and they have little handles and like a little pour spout.
Yeah, so much easier.
Those are really nice. Yeah. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squeeze the lemon in here and then I'll measure out with a tablespoon. But yes, those would be nice to have. Maybe I'll put that on my wish list. How many people like ranch dressing? Yeah. Oh, so not saying, oh, I thought this would be a popular. Okay, that's fair. That's
I
fair.
have not really had one made, and so I think, you know, the commercial products tend to be kind of, you know, less flavorful.
Yeah.
You know, they're not all that great.
Yeah, this is kind of like, I don't know, homemade tartar sauces versus store-bought tartar sauce. I think you'll see that this is it's worth to take the time to make. And I'm talking and going slow. You can whip this up a lot faster than I'm gonna make it right now.
I just discovered a funny memoir by that Reed Drummond, the pioneer woman.
Oh, the Pioneer Woman, yeah.
And, you know, she was doing a whole bunch of things with little small jars, you know, where she'd doing dressing, the shaking, candy jars. You know, it was interesting. It was very funny memoir because she wasn't used on an Oklahoma ranch, which she married her husband. But those kind of shows are quite fascinating.
Yeah, no,
Prepare for so many people.
cooking for a lot of people, yeah, that's hard. Okay, so while the chemical reaction, and I don't know if you guys saw, is this camera, is it right on the?
Yeah, this one shows you, and then this would be the stove open.
So can we, I don't know, it's not a big deal, but I want to show you guys how just in, I don't know, how long ago, 20 seconds? Like it's already kind of thickening on top. Can you guys see that kind of creamy layer that's occurring? So like buttermilk's super thick. So that's what's happening. I don't know, chemistry, it's cool, science. Okay. So we're gonna combine the rest of our ingredients. You don't have to use a mason jar. That's just how they have it here and it makes it very easy to store. I'm just gonna use this cup, but we need 2/3 cup of mayo. I'm gonna give a little, before I do that, a quick stir so my potatoes aren't burning. Yeah. I could smell them and hear them. We have to use all of our senses when we're cooking. So you can see that this is browning up. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit so we don't get too brown here. And to speed up this process a little bit, I'm going to throw a lid on top just to create a little bit of a steaming action. I'm not going to do it for super long. I don't want them to get mushy on me, but for time purposes, I'm just adding, my trick is to add a little bit of water to the lid and just go like this. Someone wants to remind me if I get caught up over here that I did that. No, I'll remember. But that just kind of helps speed it up and make sure that the potatoes aren't too crunchy. And I'm going to measure out the mayonnaise. So again, I think mayo gets a bad rap too. I just choose to buy one that is doesn't have any hydrogenated oils, just because there is enough research out there saying hydrogenated oils are not good for you. This one is a light mayonnaise, so if you're worried about calories or fat intake, but fat shouldn't be totally avoided. It's actually, if you eat the full fat version, as long as you're not overdoing it, it actually helps you stay full longer. It makes you feel satiated. It also has more flavor to it, so you might, well, it could be a double-edged sword with that. But and fat also, we need it when we're eating our vegetables to help absorb some of those vitamins and minerals that are found in those vegetables. Like we need the fat to break those down. So again, I'm here to say like finding that balance and not avoiding it altogether, having some in your diet. So this would be like, we're not eating just something big and fatty here. We're making a dressing that you're only going to eat, I don't know, a tablespoon of at a sitting. So it's really not that much. Okay, so that's.
Mayo that didn't have salt.
Didn't have salt.
Every mayo I've ever seen has some salt.
And the mayo, it will. But again, you're not sitting down and eating a whole bunch of it at one time. So it's such a minimal amount that you're getting. And if you're eating a whole bunch of these other fruits and vegetables, these whole foods, it's a balancing act.
Unsalted butter, so it's always a weird.
Yeah, unsalted butter. Yeah, so you kind of pick and choose. I like that. So my timer just went off. So I'm going to pause the dressing. This is when you're cooking multiple things at once. Check my potatoes. Give them a little stir. They don't feel super soft yet, so I'm going to put my lid back on, and then I'm going to toss the cauliflower really quick. And I don't know if I have an oven mitt. Do I have an oven mitt, Christina? Yes. Aha. I haven't been here for a year, so trying to find my way around the kitchen again. But I want to show you guys and the people online. If I'm right here, or I'll come over the stove. Is that good? So you guys can see how it's kind of crusting on there. So I'm just gonna toss it around. So this is our breading. And you could just eat it like this. I actually, for people who might be a little heat sensitive, I'm not gonna toss all the cauliflower in the buffalo sauce, just so you could try it just like this, especially if you don't like super spicy. So you can see on the bottom, that was the part that was against the baking sheet, we're starting to get some nice browning. All right, and I'm going to set this back in. I'll leave this here so I know where it's at. And then let's see, let's go back to, I think it's another 15 minutes for these. That was 25 minutes. So we're going to set our timer for another 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to let that be. I realized I need my bowl from that's for later. And then I'm going to check this again. Okay, and now I'm going to leave the lid off because I don't want them to get too soft. And then we have like 1 more minute on our science experiment over here, our buttermilk. And so we're going to finish getting the rest of our ingredients in here. So we did our mayo. We now need to do our yogurt. So a 5-ounce container. This is 5.3. I'm just going to throw it all in there. This is a Greek yogurt, so we're getting a little bit of protein in our dressing. I think there's kind of a big obsession with getting enough protein, which there's a lot of data and reason people do undereat protein a lot. But I think we're kind of obsessed with getting it in every single thing we eat. So again, trying to find that balance. Tonight's theme, balance, balance, balance. But Greek yogurt is a very good source, so it is worthwhile having in our diet.
Good question.
Yes, question.
It says
Strained Greek yogurt. Yeah, this one wasn't super liquidy. If sometimes when you open the Greek yogurt and there's like a liquid layer on that, you would want to remove that and just put that one in there. But this one didn't have that liquid on top. So you could use a very fine mesh strainer and strain out the water. Does that answer your question?
Well, wouldn't you just mix the water into the yogurt?
Well, the reason they want you to remove it is so that the dressing itself doesn't get too runny, because we're adding like lemon juice and the milk, and that's thin. And so we don't want it to be, because ranch dressing kind of has a certain thickness to it. So we want to try to keep that, maintain that. Yeah. 1 teaspoon of the dried dill. Thank you for the questions. I like when classes are more interactive. No one wants to hear me talk the entire time. So this is our dry dill. Dill is kind of, I mean, it's very classic in ranch dressing, but I feel like just in cooking in general, dill can really change up a recipe. And I encourage people to experiment and play around with it. It can really bring a lot of flavor to a dish.
Homemade ranch dressing before, but I haven't quite found one that I
Oh, well,
like a lot, so.
I hope this is the winner. I thought at home I had dried parsley and I didn't have it. I should have checked before I went to the store. So I'm just gonna do a little extra of the green onions and chives. So I'm sorry to gyp you guys on that, but I'm just gonna do an extra half teaspoon of that. And then some more garlic, onion powder. You could do fresh garlic. Just know that you would use maybe a little bit more. So your dried is very concentrated when you do your dried spices and herbs. So when you're using fresh, you would use a little bit more than what the recipe calls for. I'm having troubles.
Garlic powder versus garlic salt.
Yeah, I would do garlic powder versus garlic salt as well. So you can control how much is in there. Sorry, this zip tie is really on there. I bought this at Winco, as you can see, though.
It's better to buy these bulk type foods than the little expensive jar.
Yes, that's what I was kind of mentioning earlier, is that the bulk, it's more cost effective. And you can control how much you have in your pantry at one time.
You can always fill one of the little bowls.
You can buy, yep. You can buy your own. And then some sea salt. Okay. I'm gonna do a little fresh garlic instead of the dried. I just want it to be really fine so no one gets like a big chunk in their mouth. And then I did a little salt and then just a little pepper. Okay, and then if we had the mason jar with the lid, we'd shake it to combine it, but you can just stir it. And I think I'm actually, well, no, we'll just do it in here. So we have room and it doesn't spill out everywhere.
You have a recipe that calls for buttermilk, you can just keep it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have buttermilk at home, but most people have usually some kind of acid in there. So if you don't have lemon juice, I'm sure like an apple cider vinegar would work. Oh no, my potatoes got overcooked. I'm gonna turn down this heat.
They bought that powdered buttermilk before, so drinking the buttermilk looks bad, but the powdered buttermilk, I don't think that would make it real hard.
Yeah, so the powdered buttermilk gets really hard and then you don't have the fresh option goes bad quickly. So yes, but if you drink milk weekly and that's something you go through, then this is a way to make your own buttermilk and not have to go out and buy it. And yeah, things go bad. Okay, I'm just gonna use a whisk to mix this up. So now we have kind of that consistency of ranch, right? And I'm going to put this back in the fridge just to keep it chilled until the end of class when you guys are trying things. Okay, let's get back to our salad really quick. I'm going to throw the peppers in. So I'm doing red. You could do any color you want. I'm going to throw this in. I think I need to add a little bit more of my oil just because the potatoes kind of really soak it up. And we want these the peppers to saute. So the potatoes is the longest part of this recipe, right? Because those are the ones that have to get tender because no one really likes a crunchy potato. But the peppers, they can be just al dente. They don't have to be really super soft. That's just personal preference. I kind of like them somewhere in between. So it has like for texture and mouthfeel, there is a little bit of crunch, but not totally raw, just because that can be a little bit more of a powerful flavor. And then we're gonna add our onions. Again, it called for a half of a small red onion. Remember, we used the other half in our other dish, in our salsa. So this is the remaining of that onion. I'm just playing around with my heat because, you know, when you're not used to the stove, you learn your kitchen, right? And so this burner, I'm just having a little troubles with, but it's okay. We didn't totally burn the potatoes. And I'm just trying to keep stuff spread out as evenly as possible so that heat can distribute nicely and cook and saute up the remaining ingredients here. And then we need our garlic. So we're gonna let this kind of sizzle. I like to do the garlic a little bit towards the end. I would have maybe pre-chopped this, but it's okay to let those saute up while you chop your garlic, or if you have a mincer, that can go a lot faster. But garlic will cook very quickly and can burn really easily in the pan. So that's kind of why I'm careful about when to add it. I think a lot of people will add the garlic at the beginning of a dish, and then it's just going to get burned and overcooked if you're trying to saute up a whole bunch of other things in that same pan. So again, the salad, it could be, I don't know if it says it on the recipe deck on the card, but it can be enjoyed cold. Like, you don't have to saute this all up. It could definitely be, except for the potatoes, but you don't have to saute up the kale. You don't have to saute up the peppers or the onions. It's just gonna have a different feel on the tongue and just kind of a different flavor, because cooking brings out the flavors of foods, but it definitely can be served cold. You also could cook everything up, chill it, if like you're wanting to make it ahead of time, and just serve the salad as a cold salad that's pre-cooked. So there's options here of how to present it. I usually try to do it, like if I have guests coming over and I'm making it, I try to like make it like the last thing that I'm making. Like, I'll pre-cook my potatoes that morning, so I'm not having to worry about that. And then I'll throw it all in a pan as guests arrive. And then, so that way I can serve it warm, because I really do like it warm. But again, that's just a personal preference. Okay, there's my timer to check on our cauliflower. Gonna give this a stir. Ooh, smell the garlic for the guests that are present. So thank you for being patient with going back and forth, but this is sometimes cooking when you're trying to do multiple dishes. You got to be able to bounce back and forth. So with our cauliflower, we have cooked it all the way up, and then we're going to put it back in our bowl with the sauce that we created, and we're going to coat it again. And it's a nice color. You guys see that before I throw it in, and it kind of, yeah. I'm just gonna grab my card and bring it over here. Is it okay if I'm over here? Yeah, okay. Okay, is there anybody in the room that's gonna eat tonight that doesn't want the red sauce on it?
I guess I would, because I'm very sensitive.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just put a couple pieces to the side now, because this is at the point in the recipe where we add the red sauce and throw it back into the oven for a couple minutes. Yeah. I'll just, yeah. Short, okay. I'll throw a few pieces to the side. These crisp up really nicely. Like, I'm kind of curious of what it's like on the, oh wait, I'm using this hot. Okay. I'm gonna put it down. These out of the way. Get our sauce.
Like the sriracha.
So this is the red hot wing sauce. This is the buffalo sauce, yeah. And then we're going to do a half a cup. I'm gonna do a little less because I don't want to, again, I don't want to over spice you guys. I found it at Fred Meyer in the like condiment section. Yeah, and there was mini. I just read the labels and this one had all ingredients that I could pronounce, right? And I knew what they were. Some of the dressings didn't, and that's why I didn't choose them. So just taking the time to read the labels when you're grocery shopping, so when we're buying pre-made foods, just to try to choose the best option for you and your family. It can make a difference in our overall healthy intake. So I did a quarter of a cup of the sauce. We're gonna be a little flexible here. And then we're gonna throw it back in for 10 to 12 more minutes. I had like a Japanese style cauliflower wing. So it was soy sauce, ginger, sesame at a restaurant. And so I was like thinking about those. And then I came across the buffalo and I felt like the buffalo one was more, I don't know, potluckish for whatever reason. But I think if you were to Google that and find that recipe or a version of that, it was very delicious when I ate it out. I haven't actually made it at home, but it would be good. Yeah. Okay, so 12 more minutes. Now my potatoes are soft now. My onions are becoming translucent. The garlic has a little bit of color on it. So this, I would be okay with where everything's at to serve it, but we have a few more things to add. And then now we'll add our kale and our bacon, but this is a very quick process because the kale, we don't want it to become like too wilted down. I just saw the time. I'm sorry. I like slowed it down and I should have kept going. Okay. For kale, if you're eating it raw, using a little bit of salt and massaging it beforehand, and then a little bit of lemon juice can really bring, like get rid of the bitterness of it. So literally when I say massage, that's what I mean is massage it like in a bowl to break down those compounds. And the salt just helps that process. It's just a sprinkle that you add in there. And then the lemon juice also helps take away that bitterness. My 5-year-old, when I do that, is obsessed with it. So I encourage you to try it. If he'll eat it, I feel like other people can enjoy it too. But so all my kale has been coated with like the oils from like the olive oil that we added, but just the oils from the foods themselves. The bacon is now being kind of reheated and giving it like the smokiness and just kind of that bacony flavor that I don't think too many people would disagree with not being absolutely delicious. And then, yeah, so this is done. And we put our chipotle lime dressing on top, which is just mayonnaise, either chipotle powder or paprika powder, and then lime juice. And then you would drizzle that on top. Or I actually, when I'm serving it to guests, just because I don't know their preferences, I'll just leave my dressing on the side and let them decide how much they want to put on top. And then let me bring the salsa back out just for our guests online, but I don't want to hold them any longer. And so here's our salsa, still looks the same. Give it another coat and then drizzle with olive oil if you want to. The olive oil, it's just like it's a fat that kind of helps, again, combine these flavors. But you don't have to do this step. So there's that. And then I'm going to turn that down. Here's our wings that were not coated. And then let's see if I can show the remainder of the wings to them. Actually, this looks pretty good. So what we're looking for is that it's not like still wet. We want it to look crispy and dry. And for our guests at home, like this is what it would look like. I mean, I might throw it back in there just while we're talking, but yeah, that is it. And then this is very hot, so I'm going to set it back down. And then the ranch dressing we made for the wings to dip these wings into. And yeah, that concludes our cooking demo. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, thank you for being here. For those that are in person, we will start dishing you up. I'll make the chipotle lime mayo, and if anybody wants to try that on top of the kale salad, you can. And yeah, thank you, and hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.